my in-laws forced me to sign a prenup, saying, "This is Adam's house, you'll leave with nothing." They smirked and toasted to their smart move. Years later, I inherited $22 million, quietly filed for divorce, and then showed them what the prenup really said. Their smiles vanished instantly. I should have walked away when his mother handed me the prenup with a smug smile on her face. But I didn't, because I was in love, and I thought Adam was different from them. I was wrong. When I met Adam, I was doing well for myself. I had a solid job in software engineering, lived in a nice apartment in San Diego, and was financially independent. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't struggling either. Adam, on the other hand, had grown up in money. His parents, Evelyn and Richard, owned a real estate company and had spoiled him his entire life. They bought him a house in La Jolla, paid off his college tuition, and made sure he had a cushy position in their company. He was used to a certain lifestyle, one I never cared about. When we first started dating, I could tell his parents didn't approve of me. Evelyn would ask pointed questions about my background, my job, my family's status. Richard barely spoke to me. They weren't outright rude, but they made it clear I wasn't what they had in mind for their golden boy. But Adam, he made me feel special. He told me he didn't care what his parents thought, that he loved me, and like an idiot, I believed him. When Adam proposed, I was thrilled. I thought his family would finally accept me. Instead, they invited us over for dinner and blindsided me. Evelyn poured herself a glass of wine, gave me a tight smile, and said, "Before we move forward, we need to discuss something important." Richard pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the table. "A prenup." "This is just a formality," Evelyn said, sounding almost bored. "It protects Adam and ensures that, in the event of a divorce, you won't be entitled to anything that isn't yours." I looked at Adam, waiting for him to defend me. He just sat there, staring at his plate. Richard cleared his throat. "This is Adam's house, his assets, his future inheritance. If things don't work out, you'll leave with whatever you came in with." Whatever I came in with. I had never once asked them for money, never once hinted that I wanted a piece of their wealth. Yet here they were, treating me like some gold digger trying to sink my claws into their son. Evelyn smiled. "I'm sure you understand." I did. I understood exactly what they thought of me. I should have walked away, but I was in love, and I thought, I don't need their money. This won't matter. So, I signed it, and they looked so damn pleased with themselves. The first year was good. The second year was okay. By the third, I started seeing the cracks. Adam changed, or maybe I just started noticing things I had ignored before. He got comfortable, too comfortable, stopped making an effort, stopped treating me like a priority. Whenever I brought it up, he'd roll his eyes and say I was being a broken bar dramatic. Worse, he started sounding like his mother. Little comments, little digs. "Are you really wearing that? Maybe you should look into Botox. You should be grateful I take care of things." Never mind that I worked full-time. Never mind that I was contributing equally to expenses, even though we were living in a house his parents had given him. But to him, it was always his house, his money, his life. I was just lucky to be a part of it. His parents, of course, encouraged this. They would come over unannounced, criticize how I decorated, complain if I moved anything. It was clear they still saw it as their house, and I was just a temporary guest. "You're so lucky Adam takes care of you," Evelyn would say with a knowing smile. I was done arguing, done fighting for respect in a house where I would never be seen as an equal. And then, out of nowhere, everything changed. My uncle passed away. We weren't close, but he had no children and very few relatives. I didn't think much of it, until I got a call from his lawyer. He left me everything. $22 million. When I told Adam, he froze. His first reaction wasn't shock or sympathy. It was, "Wait, how much?" And suddenly, just like that, I was worthy. His parents, who had spent years treating me like I was disposable, suddenly couldn't stop praising me. Evelyn invited me to lunch. Me alone. She smiled across the table and said, "I always knew you were special." Richard, who had barely spoken to me in 6 years, suddenly wanted to talk business, asking if I had plans for my inheritance. Adam, he became attentive, sweet, told me he wanted us to go on vacations, to invest in property. I let them celebrate, let them believe they had won, because while they were busy toasting to their fortunate turn of events, I was busy meeting with my lawyer and pulling out the prenup they had so graciously forced me to sign, the same prenup that protected all of Adam's assets, but did nothing to protect mine. I didn't say a word, not yet. I just smiled and started planning my exit. I played along for weeks. I let Adam think we were suddenly the perfect couple again. I let his parents believe I was finally worthy of their time. I listened as Adam made big plans for my money. He started dropping hints about buying a new vacation home. Then, it was remodeling his house. Then, it was investing in his father's company because it just makes sense to keep the wealth in the family. Not once did he ask what I wanted to do with it, because to him, my money wasn't really mine. And that's when I knew he had never loved me. Not really. I had just been a placeholder, a convenient wife, a good look for his family. And now that I had something they wanted, they had all decided to pretend I mattered. So, I played my role. I smiled at their fake compliments. I let Adam sweet-talk me. I let Evelyn link arms with me at brunch like we were best friends. And in the meantime, I was making moves. First, I opened a separate bank account under my own name, moved my inheritance there. Adam had no access. Then, I hired a lawyer. I wanted to know exactly what I was dealing with. And that's when we went through the prenup line by line. Turns out, Evelyn and Richard had been so focused on protecting their own money that they hadn't thought to include a clause protecting Adam from me. If we divorced, he wouldn't get a single cent of my money, not a dime. I nearly laughed when my lawyer pointed it out. The very document they had forced me to sign, the one that wasn't sure I'd left with nothing, was now the very thing that would protect me. But I wasn't done. I started preparing to leave. Step by step, I untangled my life from Adam's. I gathered every financial document I needed. I quietly started looking for my own house, a beachfront property in La Jolla, mine, paid for in full. And when everything was in place, I just had to wait for one final push. And, of course, Adam gave it to me. Adam started coming home late. At first, I thought maybe he was just busy. After all, he was suddenly working so hard to impress me, trying to convince me that we needed to make big investments together. But then, one night, his phone buzzed while he was in the shower. I glanced at it, and there it was. A message from someone named Sophia. "Can't wait to see you again tonight. Last time was amazing." I felt nothing, no pain, no shock, just a cold, creeping sense of finality. I clicked on their messages. Months of texts, photos, plans. It had been going on for a long time, probably before my inheritance. And that's when I realized, Adam wasn't just after my money. He was trying to secure his future before he left me. He thought he was playing me, but he had no idea what was coming. I didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I called a private investigator. If Adam wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. It didn't take long. Within a week, I had photos, videos, proof. Adam with Sophia, at hotels, at bars, kissing her, touching her, looking at her the way he hadn't looked at me in years. Perfect. I took the evidence straight to my lawyer. "Ready?" I asked. She smiled. "Let's do this." One evening, Adam came home in a good mood. He kissed my cheek, poured himself a drink, and started rambling about some great business opportunity his father wanted him to invest in. That's when I slid the divorce papers across the table. He frowned. "What's this?" "Read it." He flipped through the pages. His expression changed from confusion to horror. "You're kidding," he said, laughing nervously. I wasn't. He scoffed, shaking his head. "You do realize you will get nothing, right? I mean, I don't know what kind of lawyer you hired, but the prenup broken bar." I pulled out my copy of the prenup, the same one his parents had so proudly forced me to sign. I flipped to the exact clause my lawyer had pointed out, the one that said Adam had no claim to any money or assets I obtained during the marriage. His face drained of color. "This isn't," he started, flipping through the pages, like he was hoping he'd find some loophole. "You and your parents made sure I'd leave with nothing of yours," I said. "You just forgot to make sure you'd get anything of mine." Silence. Evelyn and Richard weren't there to help him. There was no backup plan, no last-minute save. He was on his own, and I wasn't finished. I pulled out the envelope. "By the way," I said, voice light, casual. You might want to look at these. I tossed the photos of him and Sophia onto the table. His affair, in high definition. He went completely still. I smiled. I'll let my lawyer know you've seen everything, I said. We'll be in touch. Then, I grabbed my bag, my keys, and walked out the door, leaving Adam alone in his house. The house I no longer had to pretend was my home. And I wasn't done yet. I didn't hear from Adam that night, or the next morning. Then, Evelyn called. Not Adam, not his father, his mother. I stared at my phone, watching her name flash across the screen. I let it ring, then again, then a third time. Finally, I picked up. How could you do this to Adam? I almost laughed. Do what? Leave him? Divorce him? Expose him for cheating? You are ruining his life, she snapped. And for what? Some petty revenge? Oh, this was rich. You forced me to sign a prenup. You made it clear I was nothing in your family. And now you're mad because I'm leaving? You're destroying him. No, I said calmly. I'm just letting him face the consequences of his own actions. She went silent for a second. Then, in a lower, sharper tone, she said, you'll regret this. And then she hung up. I leaned back, exhaling. Oh, so that's how they wanted to play it. Fine. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Then, my lawyer called. They're contesting the prenup. I blinked. What? They're trying to claim it should be nullified on the basis of unfair circumstances. I burst out laughing. Unfair? They had written the damn thing. But Evelyn and Richard weren't stupid. They were powerful. They had connections. They had money. And now that they knew Adam was walking away with nothing, they were scrambling to find a way to stop it. But I had expected this. I had prepared for this. And I had one more card left to play. The day of our court hearing arrived. Adam, Evelyn, and Richard showed up with 3 lawyers. I showed up with mine, and a forensic accountant. See, while they were busy trying to find a way to take my money, I was busy digging into theirs. And what I found: shady business deals, tax fraud, hidden assets. Evelyn and Richard had been cooking their books for years. And now, I had all the documents, the proof, and the receipts. So when their lawyer smugly tried to argue that the prenup was unfair, my lawyer leaned forward, placed a thick stack of papers on the table, and said, before we get into that, Your Honor, we have something to present. I watched as Evelyn's face lost all color. Richard stiffened. Adam just looked confused, because he had no idea what was happening. Then, the judge flipped through the documents, looked up, and said, Mr. and Mrs. Carter, do you understand the gravity of what I'm looking at? Evelyn physically swayed in her seat. Richard's jaw clenched. Adam, he still hadn't figured it out. Your company has been engaging in financial misconduct, my lawyer continued. And given that Adam is also listed as an executive, he may be implicated as well. That's when Adam finally spoke. What? No. I don't handle finances. I don't. He turned to his parents. Mom, Dad, but they weren't looking at him. They were looking at me, because they finally understood. I wasn't just leaving. I wasn't just taking my money and walking away. I was taking them down with me. Everything unraveled fast. The judge refused to throw out the prenup. My inheritance remained mine alone. But Evelyn and Richard, they were suddenly facing a full-scale financial investigation. Adam, well, his name was on several of those fraudulent transactions. Whether he actually knew what was going on didn't matter. On paper, he was involved, and that meant he was under investigation too. The house, gone. The business, frozen. The reputation they had spent years protecting, shattered. And me, I walked away, wealthy, free, untouchable. Evelyn's last words to me echoed in my head. You'll regret this. No, Evelyn, you will. Adam tried calling me, over and over. First, he was angry. You set me up. You ruined my life. Then, he was desperate. We can fix this. Just talk to me. Then, he cried. I ignored every single call. Evelyn and Richard, they had bigger problems. The IRS was all over their company. Investigators were freezing their accounts, tearing through their records. Their friends, the rich and powerful people they had spent years impressing, were nowhere to be found. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that they were forced to sell their Rancho Santa Fe mansion to cover legal fees. And Adam, with his parents drowning, He had nothing left. The house I had once lived in, the one they had sworn I'd never get, foreclosed. The money they thought would always protect them, gone. The reputation they valued more than anything, destroyed. And me, I was finally free. Months later, I got a call from a familiar number. Sophia. Yes, that's Sophia, Adam's mistress. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity won. She sounded furious. You're BCH. You know that? She snapped the second I answered. I leaned back in my chair, smiling. I assume Adam didn't tell you everything? Silence. Then, a bitter laugh. He's broke. I said nothing, letting her vent. He told me we'd start a new life together, that we'd have money, a house, everything. But after your little court stunt, he's got nothing. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Instead, I let out a soft hum. So, what do you want me to do about it? Her voice turned sharp. He's your husband. I laughed. Not anymore. Then, I hung up. I don't think about Adam much anymore. But I did hear through the grapevine that, after everything collapsed, he moved back in with his parents. Except this time, it wasn't in a luxury estate. It was in a rented condo, with no company, no wealth, no reputation. And me, I moved into my own beachfront house in La Jolla, paid in full. No in-laws, no controlling husband, no one telling me I was lucky to be included in their world. Because now, I had built a better one, without them.